Okay, so now we're moving on to knee fallout. So again, we want to make sure our pelvis is in neutral. Again, if your back is bothering you, you can slightly imprint and go where you can maintain your pelvis stability and making sure that you can maintain your abdominals being on. So the bent knee fallout, we want to focus on the hip staying nice and square. You're rotating that hip open, but only going as far as the hip bones will stay level and the opposite leg will stay still. And then you think inner thigh, pelvic floor to bring it back to center. Inhale as you rotate open, and then exhale as you come back to center. Same thing on the opposite side. Inhale as you rotate away, exhale as you come back to center. And to make this exercise more challenging, you can alternate instead of repeating on the same side, because that will challenge the stability of the pelvis. Then we will do knee folds. So knee folds, we're bringing that knee to 90 degrees. Knee should be directly over the hip, and then the foot should line up with the knee. Make sure as you lower, the pelvis stays nice and still as you slowly lower. Inhale as you come up. Exhale as you slowly lower. You also want to make sure that the angle of the knee does not change as you lower the leg, that the movement is coming completely from the hip. Same thing on the opposite side. Inhale as you lower. Exhale as you lift. Inhale as you lower. Exhale as you lift. Or vice versa. Exhale to resist the weight of the leg down. Inhale on the way up. Now for the next exercise, you do want to flatten your back into the mat just because both feet are going to be in the air. You're going to bring your first leg up to tabletop. Bring the second leg up. Lower the first leg down. Lower the second leg, making sure the pelvis has stayed nice and steady. First leg comes up. Second leg comes up. First leg lowers. Second leg lowers. For your ab prep, to start, I want you to think about dropping the ribs, so the back of the rib cage, to initiate the movement. So make sure that your elbows are not resting on the mat, that they're slightly in the corners of your eyes, so they should be slightly forward. Just start with some inhales and dropping the back of the rib cage. Inhale. Exhale as you drop the back of the ribs down. Inhale, relax. Exhale as you drop. So we're going to use that rib drop to initiate lifting from your abdominals. You want to think, engage your six pack. Six pack pulls on the base of the ribs, lifting the head and shoulders. We never want to strain into the neck and lift with the neck. So big inhale. Exhale, drop the ribs. And peel the head and shoulders up. Inhale, you maintain. Exhale as you slowly lower. And then again. Your eye contact should be towards your thighs or your knees. Inhale, hold. Exhale as you slowly lower. And then we also got our hip sways. So bring your feet together. We want to make sure that our shoulders stay connected to the mat. Inhale, both knees fall to one side. Your hip can lift, but your shoulder must stay down. Take a big inhale. Use your exhale to pull towards the midline. And then same thing on the opposite side. Inhale as you fall away, letting it stretch out your hip and your back. Exhale, use your abdominals to come back to center. Inhale away. Exhale. So your bottom hand, you can support your head or cradle your head, even have a pillow underneath it. You want to make sure that your hips are stacked and your shoulders are stacked. The top hand is there to give you support, just to kind of push into the mat so that you're not rolling forward with the torso. Keeping the feet together. Actually, sorry, I should address the knees. Knees roughly below the hips, not all the way tucked up. So we want to make sure that we don't pull them too far forward, and it doesn't hurt to have your heels line up with your sit bones. From there, you want your pelvis to stay nice and still. Rotate the top knee open, and then nice and slow back down. So lower abdominals are on. You should feel like you're lifting up through the waistline. I'm not side bending or moving. I'm just actively engaging through the trunk. Inhale as you rotate the top knee open, and then nice and slow back down. Inhale as you rotate open, and then nice and slow back down. Your second exercise in that series, you want to move from the hips. So the whole leg is lifting. Again, the pelvis should stay nice and still, and then you nice and slowly lower. So a nice cue is think of your top hand in the back pocket of your jeans to remind you that your pelvis stays there as you lift the top leg and lower the top leg. Don't fuss about the height. If you lift too high, you will roll back, or you might shorten through the waistline. So the pelvis should also stay still in that sense, from the distance from the rib cage. Inhale as you come up, exhale down. Then we've got our knee circles. So think of the rotation happening in the hip joint as you're rotating. So the angle of the knee doesn't change, the foot doesn't change, it's all happening with the thigh bone in the hip socket. You'll change directions. Think of your hip socket as a mixing bowl, and then the thigh is the stir stick, and you're scraping the edges of the mixing bowl with your thigh. When you finish that series, roll onto your back for your figure four, so that the leg that you just worked is the ankle that goes on the knee, and then you pull your thigh into the chest. Stretch for about 3 to 5 nice deep breaths, or until you feel the muscle relax, before you switch over to do the opposite side. So with our bridges, we want to really work on the articulation of the spine. You're going to start in neutral, so your hip bones and pubic bone are level. Arms are at your side. You want to think about your collarbones being nice and wide, and you can push your arms into the mat to assist with the exercise. You're going to start with your pelvic tilts. You're going to take a nice deep breath. On your exhale, feel your low back melt into the floor. Fire the glutes. Think about peeling one vertebrae at a time. So I'm slowly trying to get each vertebrae to come up off the mat independently, and then finding that nice long line. So from my knees to my hips to my shoulders, I should have a line. From here, I want to think about that same articulation on the way down. So I take a nice deep inhale, exhale, sink through the collarbone. Sink through the sternum. Think wide across the collarbones. Placing again one vertebrae at a time. Really work getting that low back. So it's going to feel like an abdominal crunch to get that low back down towards the mat. Really trying to touch each vertebrae and then roll into neutral to finish off the exercise. So again, inhale, nice deep breath. On your exhale, start with a pelvic tilt. Engage the glutes. Start to peel the spine one vertebrae at a time up, staying nice and wide across the collarbone and pressing the arms into the mat. Inhale, you hold. Exhale, start to sink through the sternum, nice and wide through the collarbones, placing one vertebrae at a time, really reaching that low back down towards the mat, and then articulating through the spine and coming into neutral. Then we're going to change to our hands and knees. So we want to be in our 4-point position. Hands are directly below the shoulders, knees are hip width apart. If this position bothers the wrists, you can always fist, have dumbbells or soft weighted balls to place your hands on. Watch that you don't lock the elbows, so elbows are soft. Lower abdominals are lightly lifted up. And we're going to start with our cat. So start from the base of the spine. You're going to tuck your tailbone, fire the glutes, lifting up through the abdominals as you articulate through the spine, dropping the head. When you lengthen out, again, reach through the sit bones, articulating through the spine, dropping the belly, and lifting the head. Again, I'm not locking the elbows, and I've got space between my shoulders and ears. Tuck the tailbone, fire the glutes, scoop the abdominals, rounding the back. The head is the last thing to drop. Lead with the sit bones. Widen the sit bones as you drop the pelvis, drop the belly, pull the sternum through the arms, and lift the head. Exhale, tuck the tailbone, scoop the abdominals, rounding the back up towards the ceiling. Inhale as you lengthen out, dropping the belly, lifting the chest, and lifting the head. Then for your fire hydrants, you want to think neutral spine. So I should be able to rest a glass on the back of my pelvis. And then, again, I'm not locking the wrists or the elbows. And I'm focusing on that glass of water on the back of my pelvis. As you lift your leg to the side, think about skimming the floor instead of worrying about how high you lift the leg. Really think about control. Inhale as you slide the leg to the side, and then control it back down. You will probably feel like there's more weight in the opposite hand from the supporting leg. Inhale as you slide away. Exhale as you control it back in. Same thing on the opposite side. Inhale, really focus on that pelvis. Make sure the leg is lifted with control, and then control it back down. Inhale as you lift. Make sure you can find that point of balance, and then control it back down. Inhale up, exhale down. Okay, for the supported squats, you're working on your range of motion. So you want to hold something. You can hold a door frame, a pole, something supported so that you don't go flying. Your feet are about hip width apart and maybe slightly turned out, whatever is appropriate for your squat stance. You're holding on as you're coming down, and you're trying to get depth. So you're trying to get nice and low, get that hip flexion, that knee flexion, but try to use your legs to come up. So the mistake often is that people pull and they're completely using their arms to come up and down. You still want to use your legs. It's just that we're trying to work on more depth. The habit is usually to stop about here when people are first learning the squat because they don't trust their leg strength. So you're just kind of supporting yourself to get a little bit deeper and then coming back up. Then you're going to apply it to the box. So what would be helpful is to put on a band around your thighs. Again, have that hip stance about hip width apart. So you're in your squat stance. You're going to tip forward. So you start seated. Make sure your thighs are pushing out into the band. Tip forward, press through the heels, and come up. Remember to reach with the hips first. You're going to reach your hips back first. Drive the knees out as you reach for your chair, and then sit. So you hinge. We're pressing through the heels so I can wiggle my toes. As I sit, I reach my hips back first, then bend the knees to come down. When I come up, I want to avoid scooching forward and sending the knees over the toes. I want to keep my thighs there, tilt, make sure the abs are on, and drive through the legs. When I'm coming down, I also don't want to go knees first because I'm going to send them over my toes. And a lot of people think, well, my back is sore, I need to stay upright, and then they try to sit like this. But it's better, think abs on, support yourself, reach back, and use your leg strength to sit down on your chair.